So you may have heard of Atlanta FaZe, and you may have heard that they're Call of Duty champions, and so you might assume that they're pretty good at Call of Duty, and you'd be right. They're pretty good at Call of Duty, and so far this year on Vanguard, Bocage Hardpoint has been absolutely insane. It's been a mosh pit. It's been chaos. But this weekend against LA Thieves, Atlanta FaZe did something that we haven't seen teams do before, and we're talking about why FaZe may have just broke Bocage Hardpoint and why teams might not want to play this map against FaZe for a while. So without further ado, guys, we're going to get right into this one. Let's go. Okay, so what we've seen so far on Bocage is that a lot of teams want to try to run 4 SMGs or at least 3 and really try to put pressure on the front of the hill, break through the middle of the map, and work the small angles and doors and rooms to work towards hill control. But what we saw FaZe do as the fastest team in the league who has the ability to do this if they want to, they pivoted the opposite way and ran 2 ARs on this map. And not only that, but we really saw an interesting use of positioning from Celium and Arcides to work a lot of these spawns and create map control. And on Sunday when Shift and I were doing the watch party, just hanging out, we're like, yo, this is weird. They're running 2 ARs, and then we're like, oh my goodness, yo, these guys don't play together at all. Celium and Arcides specifically, they're not together on the map at all. And we started dialing in on this, and suddenly you're like, wait a second, this is definitely what they tried to dial up here to create map control. So we're gonna go through all the examples of their setups and how they're using these guys to dominate the map. So this is the first time you see it here on P1, and it's not too surprising. You normally would see something like this where Celium as the AR is inside the hill on P2 on the rotation. Arcides is basically picking up the flank and making sure they don't get pinched on the far right side of the map, with the automaton working towards river here. It's a pretty clean first setup, letting Simp and Abizi roam the middle of the map inside barn to create that map control for them towards the hill. And obviously it worked, and this is against an LA Thieves team who should be pretty good on a map like this with similarly set up 2 very, very aggressive SMGs, very, very talented flex / ARs. To do this against LAT like this at the start of a map, 67-9 after 2 hills, really impressive. Even on the rotation here, you can see how Celium is pushed up out in front of P2, and Arcides now is trying to pinch the opposite side of the map to flip spawns for rotations for P3. And again, the goal here is to provide Simp and Abizi with as much information as possible to work towards the narrower parts of the map, to understand the spawns, which areas are covered and which ones aren't, to overall help Simp and Abizi know where LAT is gonna be coming from. And of course, when they have that information, they're deadly. So then forward onto P4, you have Celium watching river, you have Arcides out towards tree watching tanks, and you have a full map control setup with Simp and Abizi roaming the middle of the map working towards the P4 hill. FaZe really wanted to slow this game down, let LAT come to them, and it absolutely works. So the question is, and we'll talk about this a little bit more later, is whether or not other teams can effectively do this, or is this a setup that really only works for FaZe because of Celium as an X factor there. And even here when they're running 2 ARs, you still see FaZe like Celium bonds in with an MP40 on P3, and then still Arcides and Celium are picking up MP40s throughout the game to work towards the hill when they need to. So now here on P5, you see when they have the good spawns, Celium is back L watching towards hill. Arcides is on the Godheady watching the flank pinch. They're working both ARs, different sides in the map, to narrow the scope for Simp and Abizi to work towards the hill. This is just a formula they're continually trying to get into, and it's obviously working for them in this map. And probably the most interesting setup is right here on P1 on the second rotation, where you have Celium pushed up all the way towards back tank. You have Arcides anchoring the back spawns at the back end of river, and then you still have Simp and Abizi working in the middle of the map towards the hard points, and you basically have LA Thieves in a little bit of a spawn trap here, and you're giving yourself a great opportunity to win the spawns for P2 as well. And we even see Celium here getting kills inside the hill from the tank side, so he has some really nice lines of sight to even help Simp and Abizi inside the hill specifically, while also narrowing the map control. So we're going to see a lot of teams, I think, utilize that positioning specifically on P1. And the other thing actually to note here throughout the game is that you see Celium and Arcides generally being the ones who take the routes to the next hill. So you're seeing the ARs working their way towards the new hills, not Simp and Abizi. You're letting Simp and Abizi roam towards the hard point, working the garbage time through the middle of the map, while Celium and Archdies are the ones taking the routes to make those plays towards spawns. So they really specified some of these roles for him in this game, or maybe that's just how it worked out, but it was very effective for him on the rotation and towards the hill. So then here in P5, their final setup here, even at the end of the game, it's nice when you have a BZ popping 3 pieces inside the hill, but again, they get to their base setup where Celium is working the riverside, helping a BZ, and then you have Archdies working street, helping Simp push up the map to put even more pressure on LAT at the back to close out this game. So it was the theme all the way throughout the hill, and it was insanely effective for him to work 2 ARs, to win rotations, to let Simp and a BZ roam, and it's just a great example of how ARs can maximize the SMGs and vice versa, and how ARs can maximize each other when positioned well around the map. It was an awesome map to watch. I knew I had to go back and watch this one after watching it live. We'll see what happens moving forward with teams and how they address FaZe on Bocage. I would not want to play them on Bocage right now. At least give yourself a little bit more time to rep it. Challenge FaZe on like Tuscan or maybe on Berlin and give it a go on some other maps, maybe before you try to challenge them here on Bocage specifically. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Drop your comments down below. Here's a video of the podcast. Most recent pile was a banger. Check it out with I Hold Shift, breaking things down and giving predictions for this weekend. Appreciate you guys for hanging out, and we'll talk to you very soon. Peace.